Good day, my brothers and sisters. Today, we are going to talk about something so crucial that it touches every corner of your life, your family, your friends, and even those closest to you. I want you to listen carefully because what I am about to share is not just advice. It is life or death wisdom for your purpose, your peace, and your destiny. And I promise you, if you stay with me until the end, your eyes will be open to realities most people never see until it's too late. Many people confuse closeness with alignment. They assume that because someone is family or because someone has been a friend for years, that their influence is safe. But I tell you today, spiritual influence is not measured by familiarity, and emotional attachment can blind even the wisest. Proximity does not equal permission, and relationship does not equal assignment. Some of the closest people to you may be the very ones distracting, delaying, or even sabotaging your God-given plan, and you won't even notice it unless you have discernment. Today, I am going to show you how to spot the subtle forces, the hidden attacks, the quiet disruptions in your closest circles. Attacks that appear as love, concern, or loyalty, but underneath, they are working against your peace and purpose. I will teach you how to read the warning signs in words, behavior, and influence so that no one, no matter how close, can derail your destiny. This teaching is about discernment, learning to see what others overlook. It is about authority, understanding who is allowed in your life and who is not. And it is about recognizing that peace is proof of proper positioning, and that loyalty to destiny must always exceed loyalty to comfort. So stay with me until the very end of this message, because by the time we are done, you will have the tools to protect your peace, safeguard your purpose, and walk in clarity and authority like never before. Welcome to How to Spot Demons, Hidden in Friends and Family. Protect your peace. Open your heart. Open your eyes and let God's wisdom reveal the hidden truths in your life today. Spiritual influence versus personal relationship. Many people confuse closeness with alignment and assume that because someone is family or a longtime friend, they must also be a safe spiritual influence. But proximity does not equal permission, and relationship does not equal assignment. Because the kingdom of God does not function on emotion, it functions on authority, purpose, and alignment. And the enemy never attacks your life directly when he can influence your environment subtly. So he embeds resistance in familiarity, because the most dangerous opposition is not the one that hates you openly, but the one that loves you personally, yet disagrees with your purpose spiritually. And you must understand that demons do not always come in hatred. Sometimes they come in concern, advice, jokes, discouragement, and emotional pressure, because their goal is not to destroy you publicly, but to redirect you privately. And when you allow personal relationships to override spiritual discernment, you surrender your assignment to sentiment. More and sentiment has no respect for destiny. Because anything that constantly questions your calling, minimizes your vision, mocks your discipline, or disturbs your peace is not neutral. It is influential. And influence is never accidental. It is intentional, whether divine or destructive. The enemy's strategy of familiar access. The adversary understands that access determines impact, so he does not waste energy breaking down doors when he can simply walk through relationships you already trust, because familiarity lowers defense and comfort disables caution. And that is why the most effective sabotage of purpose rarely comes from strangers, but from voices you listen to without resistance. Because when a person has emotional access, they can plant doubt without appearing hostile and sow confusion without appearing evil, and the enemy studies your patterns, your history, your wounds, and then positions influence where you feel safe, because safety without discernment becomes vulnerability. And when you ignore repeated disruptions, constant negativity, or subtle pressure to compromise discipline, you are not being patient. You are being unguarded because the enemy's strategy is not exposure, but erosion, not confrontation, but conversation, not attack, but suggestion, and every suggestion that pulls you away from obedience, peace, and purpose is evidence of unauthorized access operating through familiar channels. Purpose is always attacked before progress. Purpose attracts opposition long before results appear because the threat is not what you have achieved, but what you are authorized to become. And the enemy does not wait for success to fight you. He fights you at the level of intention, identity, and calling, because if he can confuse your why, he will never need to stop your what. And that is why discouragement often increases right after clarity. Resistance rises immediately after vision, and misunderstanding intensifies when direction becomes clear, because purpose exposes you to responsibility, and responsibility attracts warfare. And when people close to you begin to question your obedience, challenge your discipline, or label your conviction as pride, it is rarely about concern and often about discomfort with your growth, because progress requires separation, and separation exposes who was benefiting from your stagnation, and every delay, distraction, or emotional drain that appears at the moment of alignment is evidence that purpose has been identified and is being resisted. Discernment is a responsibility, not a gift alone. Many believers treat discernment as a mystical ability reserved for a few, but discernment is first a responsibility given to all who carry purpose, because authority without awareness leads to abuse, and calling without perception leads to confusion. And God never assigns destiny without expecting vigilance, because you are accountable for what you allow to influence you. And ignorance is not innocence when access has been granted repeatedly, and discernment is sharpened by discipline, observation, and obedience, not by emotion or assumption, because spiritual blindness often comes from familiarity. And when you refuse to evaluate fruit, patterns, and impact, you are not being loving. You are being careless with your assignment, because love does not ignore danger and grace does not cancel wisdom. And every time your peace is disturbed, your focus diluted, or your standards pressured, discernment is required. Not prayer alone, because prayer without perception leaves the door open to repeated interference. Emotional proximity can blind spiritual vision. Emotions are powerful, but they are not reliable leaders, because what you feel can override what you know. And when emotional bonds are strong, they can silence spiritual warning signals, because closeness creates bias, and bias distorts judgment. And that is why people often defend what is damaging, simply because it is familiar, because emotional proximity can cause you to interpret resistance as love, control as concern, and sabotage as loyalty. And when vision is filtered through affection, you stop evaluating impact and start protecting access, because the heart becomes invested before the mind investigates. And the enemy understands that if he can keep you emotionally attached, he can keep you spiritually distracted, because emotions demand comfort while purpose demands discipline. And when someone consistently drains your energy, questions your growth, or resists your transformation while claiming love, emotional proximity has already compromised spiritual clarity, because vision requires distance to be interpreted correctly, and anything too close to the eye cannot be seen clearly. Not everyone close to you is assigned to you. Closeness does not equal calling, and presence does not mean permission, because people can be near your life without being part of your destiny. And when you confuse association with assignment, you burden relationships with expectations they were never designed to carry, because God assigns people based on purpose, not history, and familiarity can keep someone connected long after alignment has expired. And that is why some relationships become heavy instead of helpful, draining instead of developmental, because they were seasonal, but you made them permanent. And when someone resists your growth, questions your obedience, or competes with your progress while claiming loyalty, they are not aligned with your assignment, because alignment produces support, not sabotage, clarity, not confusion, and peace, not pressure. And every relationship must be evaluated by the question, does this connection push me toward purpose or pull me toward comfort? Because destiny demands partners, not passengers, and purpose requires agreement, not just affection. Words reveal alignment before actions do. Words are the earliest evidence of allegiance because speech is the overflow of belief. And long before a person acts against your purpose, they speak against it, because language carries spirit, intention, and direction. And you must listen beyond tone and affection to discern alignment, because consistent jokes about your discipline, repeated questions about your calling, and subtle discouragement disguised as realism are not harmless. They are indicators, because what someone repeatedly says about your vision reveals how they perceive your future, and when words consistently minimize, mock, or create doubt, they are not neutral, because alignment produces affirmation, clarity, and reinforcement, not confusion or erosion. And the enemy uses language as a soft weapon because words can enter places, actions cannot, shaping perception over time. And if you ignore speech, you will eventually suffer behavior, because actions only manifest what language has already legalized in the heart. Peace is proof of proper positioning. Peace is not the absence of conflict, but the confirmation of alignment, because when you are positioned correctly in purpose, your spirit rests even when circumstances resist. And that is why disturbance often increases when positioning is wrong, because confusion, anxiety, and constant inner agitation are symptoms of misalignment, not external attack alone. And many people ignore peace because it does not shout. It withdraws, and when peace leaves, it is warning you that something or someone has violated your spiritual boundaries, because peace is a governor. It regulates access and signals order. And when you continually feel pressured, rushed, or emotionally drained around certain environments or relationships, it is not coincidence. It is information, because peace never coexists with manipulation, control, or compromise. And the enemy's objective is not always chaos. Sometimes it is constant unrest, because unrest keeps you reactive instead of intentional. And when peace is restored through distance, obedience, or separation, it confirms that alignment has been corrected. Separation is sometimes protection, not rejection. Separation is not always a punishment. It is often a strategy of preservation, because the kingdom operates on order and alignment, not on proximity and comfort. And when God or circumstance places distance between you and certain people, it is rarely personal. It is protective, because exposure without readiness is vulnerability. And when you refuse separation out of guilt, loyalty, or fear of offense, you risk compromise, because some relationships, no matter how loving, cannot coexist with your purpose at certain seasons. And the enemy exploits attachment to keep you distracted, drained, and delayed, because proximity without alignment invites influence, and influence without authority invites destruction. And when you honor necessary distance, it is not coldness, it is wisdom, because separation restores focus, preserves peace, and protects destiny. And every time you feel an urge to hold on to what consistently resists your growth, remember that preservation is higher than approval, because protection sometimes requires isolation. And isolation is not rejection. It is preparation for the assignment you are called to complete. Kingdom loyalty must exceed blood loyalty. Loyalty to purpose always takes precedence over loyalty to people, because the kingdom is built on alignment and obedience, not sentiment and familiarity. And when blood, friendship, or comfort begins to dictate your decisions, you are no longer living by assignment, but by attachment, because the enemy knows that loyalty to people can be manipulated, distracted, and redirected. And that is why spiritual alignment must be stronger than emotional connection, because obedience produces favor, while compromise produces delay. And when you honor destiny over desire, clarity over comfort, and principle over popularity, you create an environment where peace and purpose can thrive, because those who truly belong in your life will support your calling, amplify your vision, and strengthen your character without demanding compromise. And every time a relationship pressures you to abandon discipline, reduce standards, or ignore warnings, it is testing whether loyalty is to flesh or to purpose, because kingdom responsibility is higher than human affection, and faithfulness to calling determines the alliances that are allowed to endure and the influence that is permitted to persist. Now, my brothers and sisters, let us put all of this together, because wisdom without application is like a lamp hidden under a basket. Remember, spiritual influence is far more important than emotional closeness. The enemy does not attack strangers first. He attacks through familiarity, because purpose is always challenged before progress is ever made. You must take responsibility for discernment, because emotional proximity can blind your spiritual vision, and not everyone who is near you is assigned to your life or your destiny. Listen carefully. Words reveal alignment long before actions do, and your peace is the clearest proof of whether you are in the right position. Separation is sometimes protection, not rejection, and loyalty to your calling and your purpose must always exceed loyalty to comfort, to blood, or to familiarity. When you embrace this truth, you will no longer allow relationships, habits, or attachments to drain your peace or delay your progress. You will walk in authority, clarity, and alignment, guarding what God has entrusted to you, and no one will have access to derail your destiny. So take this teaching to heart. Evaluate your circles, examine the influence around you, and apply discernment with courage and wisdom. Every decision you make in protecting your peace is a declaration that your purpose is higher than sentiment, that your destiny is sacred, and that nothing will stop what God has ordained for your life. Thank you for staying with me today. If this message has opened your eyes and strengthened your spirit, subscribe to Dr. Myles Munroe Teachings, because we deliver life-changing wisdom to protect your peace and grow your purpose. Comment below, "I am ready to protect my peace and honor my calling." Share this video with someone you love, because their destiny may depend on it. Remember, spiritual alignment always comes before personal attachment. Walk in authority, guard your peace, honor your purpose, and watch God elevate your life beyond compromise.